When rock bottom becomes your launch pad, have you ever felt like you were drowning in your own life? Like the weight of everything was pressing down so hard that you couldn't even remember what it felt like to breathe normally? I recently had the profound privilege of interviewing Terelle Wallace, a remarkable individual whose journey from devastation to triumph has become a beacon for those navigating their darkest hours. Terrell isn't just someone who overcame adversity, they're a force of nature who has transformed personal pain into a global movement of hope. Their work has touched thousands of lives across continents, proving that our deepest wounds often become the source of our greatest gifts to the world. What struck me most about our conversation wasn't just the obstacles Terrell overcame, but how they transformed those very obstacles into stepping stones toward an extraordinary life. Their story isn't just inspiring, it's revolutionary in how it redefines what's possible when we refuse to be defined by our circumstances. The truth is, we all hit rock bottom at some point. Some of us live there for days, others for years. But what separates those who stay there from those who rise? That's what I want to explore with you today. When we're at our lowest, we often believe the lie that this is our permanent address, that this darkness is our new home. But what if rock bottom isn't your final destination, but your launch pad? I want to share something that might sound counterintuitive. Resilience isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about what you do when you're lying face down on the ground with the taste of dirt in your mouth and the weight of failure on your back. It's about that moment when you have a choice: stay down or start the painful process of getting back up. Consider Chris Gardner. You might know his story from The Pursuit of Happiness. Before Will Smith portrayed him on screen, Gardner was just a struggling single father, sleeping in public bathrooms with his young son, homeless, broke, desperate. There's a moment in his real life, not the Hollywood version, when he had exactly $2.17 to his name. $2.17. Not enough for a decent meal, let alone rent. He needed to choose between eating or paying for public transportation to get to a job interview the next day. He didn't eat. And the next day, he showed up to that interview without having showered, wearing the same clothes he'd worn for days, carrying everything he owned in a small bag. And he nailed it. But here's what movies don't show you: Gardner faced rejection after rejection before that breakthrough. He kept showing up day after day, interview after interview, failure after failure, with his son watching his every move, learning what persistence looks like in human form. And eventually, that persistence transformed into a multi million-dollar brokerage firm. But more importantly, it transformed into a legacy of hope that continues to inspire decades later. When I think about what Terrell Wallace shared with me about resilience being our superpower, I'm reminded that this power doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from moving through it with purpose. It comes from understanding that your lowest moments don't define you, they refine you. The question isn't whether you'll face adversity, the question is, what will you do with it? Now, let me be clear: I'm not romanticizing suffering. Pain hurts, trauma is real, depression is debilitating, anxiety is paralyzing. And sometimes just getting out of bed feels like climbing Mount Everest with no equipment and less oxygen. But what if we could reframe our relationship with our lowest moments? There's this fascinating phenomenon in Japanese culture called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery by mending the cracks with gold. The philosophy behind it suggests that breakage and repair become part of the object's history, making it more beautiful, not less valuable. What if we applied this same philosophy to our lives? What if our breaks and cracks, our failures, our heartbreaks, our losses aren't things to hide, but rather the very places where our light shines through most brilliantly? Nick Vucic was born without arms or legs. Can you imagine starting life with that kind of challenge? As a child, he was bullied relentlessly. By age 10, he attempted suicide by drowning in his bathtub. That's how deep his pain ran. Today, Nick has spoken to over 6 million people across 57 countries. He's a best selling author, entrepreneur, and father of four. His organization touches millions of lives annually. What changed? Not his physical circumstances. He still has no arms or legs. What changed was how he viewed his story. He stopped seeing himself as a victim of circumstance and started seeing himself as a vessel of possibility. During my conversation with Terelle Wallace, they emphasized something profound. Your story matters. This isn't just a feel good platitude, it's a radical truth that can transform how we navigate our darkest chapters. When we hide our struggles, we not only deny ourselves healing, but we deny others the opportunity to find hope in our journey. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the ultimate form of courage. It's saying, this is me, all of me, the triumphs and the failures, the strength and the fragility, the certainty and the doubt. I'm reminded of Chrissy Metz, who many know from the hit show This Is Us. Before fame found her, Metz was a struggling actress battling severe depression linked to body image issues. Hollywood, an industry notorious for its narrow beauty standards, seemed like the last place someone like her would succeed. What's remarkable about Metz isn't just that she eventually landed a breakthrough role, it's that she refused to separate her struggles from her success story. She openly discusses her mental health challenges, her therapy journey, and her ongoing commitment to self love. In one interview, she said something that stopped me in my tracks. When I stopped focusing on the difficulty of it all, the hurt and the pain, and started focusing on the possibility, that's when my life changed. That's the power of reframing your story, not denying the pain, but refusing to let it have the final word. It's about acknowledging the darkness while still choosing to face the light. During my interview with Terelle Wallace, they shared insights about consistency and self love being the true engines of transformation. This resonated deeply with me because we often expect change to happen overnight. We want the movie montage version of growth, 3 minutes of inspiring music while our lives magically transform. But real change is slow, it's messy, it's two steps forward and one step back. Sometimes it's two steps forward and 10 steps back. It's falling off the wagon so many times you wonder if there even is a wagon anymore. The key is consistency, showing up for yourself even when results aren't immediate or visible. It's about making the choice to heal, to grow, to transform over and over again, even when it feels like nothing is happening, especially when it feels like nothing is happening. Think about water dripping on a stone. One drop does nothing. 1,000 drops, still nothing visible. But 1,000,000 drops over time, that water reshapes the stone completely. That's how transformation works. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. And underpinning that consistency must be self love, not the Instagram version with bubble baths and face masks, though those are lovely. I'm talking about the gritty, uncomfortable self love that says, I accept where I am right now, and I believe I deserve better. This kind of self love is revolutionary because it holds two truths simultaneously: acceptance of your present reality and belief in your capacity for change. When Terelle Wallace spoke about this balance, I was struck by how many of us get stuck in one extreme or the other. We either accept our circumstances as permanent, this is just how life is, or we reject our present reality so completely that we can't build from it. I'll be happy when true transformation happens in the middle ground, where acceptance meets aspiration. I want to pause here and acknowledge something important. Not all rock bottoms are created equal. Some of us face systemic barriers that make our climb steeper. Racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, poverty. These aren't just challenges to overcome through positive thinking. They're real obstacles that require both personal resilience and collective action to dismantle. But here's what I've learned from Terelle Wallace and from studying countless resilience stories. While we can't always control our circumstances, we can always choose how we respond to them. This isn't about toxic positivity or denying reality. It's about claiming your power in situations where you might feel powerless. It's about recognizing that even in your darkest moments, you still have choices. Maybe not big ones, but choices nonetheless. When I think about the stories Terrell Wallace shared with me, stories of people transforming their deepest wounds into their greatest gifts, I'm reminded that our capacity for resilience is often far greater than we imagine. We are, all of us, more adaptable than we know, more creative than we believe, more resilient than we think. But this resilience isn't automatic, it's cultivated, practiced, chosen. So I challenge you today: look at your rock bottom, whatever form it takes, not as your permanent address, but as the solid ground from which you'll launch into your next chapter. Ask yourself, what part of my story have I been hiding that might actually be my greatest source of strength? What would change if I saw my struggles not as shameful chapters to conceal, but as powerful testimonies to share? Then reach out, find one person you trust, and share that part of your story. Not for pity, but for power. Not for sympathy, but for solidarity. Because when we share our darkness, we often discover we're not alone in it. And there's immense strength in that discovery. Finally, commit to one small, consistent action towards your healing or growth. Not a grand gesture, but a sustainable practice. Remember that transformation isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. Your rock bottom is not your destiny, it's not your identity, it's simply the place from which you rise. And rise you will, perhaps slowly, perhaps unevenly, but inevitably, if you keep showing up for yourself day after day. The world needs your comeback story, not the sanitized social media ready version, but the real one with all its mess and magic. Because your journey through darkness might just be the light someone else needs to find their way home. So stand up, dust yourself off, and take that first step forward. Your launch pad awaits.